Fans, next time you need tickets to a game or concert, head to StubHub and discover why millions of fans make it their go-to site for finding great seats, even on the day of the event and even if it's sold out. The only question is, where do you want to sit? StubHub! The B.S Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
this is the B.S Report with Bill Simmons.
It might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The B.S Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The B.S Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. A cloudy and inexplicably cold day here in Southern California. It is a Thursday. I have been back in the United States for 4 days, and the jet lag just has not gone away. And I feel like a zombie. And I might never write a coherent column ever again. I don't know what's happened. I feel like something broke in my brain somewhere across the Atlantic or the Pacific, whatever the hell we were flying over. But maybe this guy will snap me out of it. On the line right now, our buddy Joe House. What's happening?
What's happening?
I don't know. So I tweeted about this whole jet lag thing, and people said that for every hour of time zone difference is another day you need to recover.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
it's 8 hours between London and LA going backwards.
Yeah.
So that means I'm not going to feel right for 8 days apparently, which is really a bummer. So
Well, you've already conquered one really important thing, which is you got rid of your English accent.
I did. My daughter has not though. My daughter is still calling me daddy.
I hope she calls you that forever. I hope it sticks.
It was great though. I'm really mad that I didn't study abroad in London. Remember we resented all those people from college who went overseas and studied abroad, and then they came back and they talked about how the school was too small and all that stuff, and we just got mad at them?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were
well,
right.
now I get it. They were right. They're right. It's fun to go other places.
The crazy thing is, how much rain did you catch?
It was, it was one of the great weather runs in the history of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
I think we never had a day where it rained for the entire day, and we probably had sun 26 out of the 28 days.
So Mother Nature loves the Olympics. That's what it proves.
Yeah, and it had really poured there, for this, and it was a huge thing heading into the Olympics. They were all freaking out about what happens when it starts raining. What are we going to do? And it was like God just stepped in and said, "I got this, guys." Kind of like how Chris Paul stepped in the gold medal game and said, "I got this, guys."
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I take that with my own personal contribution to the overall effort, because it's documented. I sent you a text with maybe 4 minutes left in the first half saying Chris Paul has sucked this whole Olympics or something to that effect.
Yep.
And I'll be gosh darned if he didn't come out in the second half and take over.
It was great. I think he was on. It was actually like watching a regular season Clippers game last year, where he just kind of waited and they took over. And then LeBron had a big three, and a couple other guys Durant made a couple big shots. They all kind of chipped in.
Do you disagree? He didn't have that auspicious a performance. He helped them win against Lithuania. He was critical to that win, but he was otherwise kind of inconsistent, it looked to me.
I think the problem with the point guards, though, is that those guys are trained just to attack and attack.
Yeah.
And on this team, you almost, it was very passive. Everybody was like, nobody wanted to take over too much. And then in the second half, I think everybody kind of looked at it and said, "Hey, Chris, you have Sergio Rodriguez on you. You might want to take advantage of this now."
Well, even the one thing that he should have felt comfortable with and that should have worked, which was that old Tyson Chandler alley-oop to the rim. Chandler botched that at least a half dozen times.
Chandler's stock really fell, and it really put a big spotlight on Dwight Howard. And people in the basketball community, everybody was saying that Dwight, apparently people were really down on him in 2008 with the Olympic, especially the other players. Like they just didn't feel like it. Yeah, apparently. I never really knew that much of this until talking to a bunch of different people, but they just felt like he didn't play that smart. in the '08 Olympics. Just they were surprised by how limited he was, and there's a school of thought that this was why Kobe wasn't 100% in on the Dwight trade, because he had played with him in '08, and he was like, that guy's kind of fool's gold a little bit.
I love it.
I thought that was really interesting. I had
ridiculous.
No idea.
There's no question that all of what you might be relating for the '08 thing makes sense, and it certainly is consistent with the inconsistency that we've seen from him on kind of both ends of the floor at that time in his career. But
right.
The idea that, like, present-day Kobe would have misgivings about Dwight Howard coming to L.A., I mean...
Well, hey, there's two things that really hurt Dwight. And this is, I wrote that trade. When that trade happened, I basically woke up, got coffee, and started typing and handing in a column.
Yeah.
And then you start talking to a whole bunch of people after. And so Dwight really hurt himself in two ways. The first way was just the way he prepares and handles his business. And the 2008 guys noticed this. They didn't feel like he took it seriously enough.
Okay.
And that's something that I think has stuck with him for most of his career, that he's more interested in being the happy guy, being the guy who's working on a whole bunch of different things, not somebody who wants to rip your heart out and win a playoff series. And that's something we already knew, but I think for somebody like Kobe...
did we know that? How good was that Orlando team that made the finals?
Well, that's the monkey wrench in that argument, is that he got hot in that one playoff series. But I know for a fact, like, the Celtics always felt like like they could get to him mentally, especially KG, and
that's different.
Wojnarowski wrote about that after the trade happened. And when Wojnarowski is so tight with Kobe that whenever he writes about anything with the Lakers, you always feel like he's getting some great inside info from Kobe.
Is he tighter than Bucher? Are you trying to say Bucher
that shifted? Yeah.
Oh,
that shifted.
Wow.
But the column he wrote right after was about how Dwight. It's time for Dwight to take it seriously, and it was pretty clear that was kind of how Kobe felt, and that was from the people that I was talking to overseas. Like, there's a sense like, hey, Dwight, are you ready to take this seriously or not? And so I think that was one part. But the other part that I never really thought about but makes total sense is he really lost a lot of respect with the other players with the way he handled his business last February.
Yeah, that I get. That for sure makes a lot of sense.
I think people were last March, I should say, because
right.
That was in March. People were just kind of stupefied by how wishy-washy he was. I know the fans were, but within the NBA community, I think the feeling was like, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah,
Is there something wrong with him?
Yeah.
Like, and then he blamed it on his agent, and people were like, well, who hired the agent? You're paying the agent. The agent's not your dad.
Right.
He works for you, you moron.
I don't know. He got bad advice, and the decision-making was flawed. We have managed by now to forgive LeBron for similar judgment issues.
Yeah, but look, I don't agree with what LeBron did either. But at the very least, LeBron had a plan and executed it. He clearly was going to Miami and playing with Wade and Bosh, and these guys knew this basically ever since 2010 or 2008 or whenever they all decided to play together. And then he stuck with it. And maybe he handled it wrong, and maybe he should have treated Cleveland differently, and maybe he made a mistake in thinking that if he donated some money to charity, people would have been nicer about it. But at least he stuck to his guns and made a decision. Dwight didn't even make a decision.
Who says that this wasn't Dwight's plan all along? To passive-aggressive, to make a pain of himself, and then to go to the Los Angeles Lakers in the best basketball market in all of America.
No, because I think even like a day after the trade deadline, he was regretting. It was almost like a drunk dial type situation, like how he ended up like back signing that extra year. It made no sense.
It did not.
It was seriously the stupidest thing he could have done, and then to claim like that they lied to him about that they trade him, and So I think, put it this way, Dwight's got to win back some of the trust of, it seems to be, the whole basketball universe. And it's not just the fans. I think if you're looking at this season, he is the most approved by far. Not just that he can come back from that back surgery, but that, he's going to have a meaningful career, because right now he's, the only good center in the entire league.
Yeah. And we're talking about the 2-time or 3-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, and somebody that, if you just look at it statistically, is just dramatically better than everyone else who plays his position.
First team All-NBA how many times? 4?
But nobody's close, That's the other thing. It's like Barry and I did this fantasy podcast yesterday, and we were talking about whether you should take Rob Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham in the first round, because the difference between them and every other tight end is so dramatic.
Wow.
Like, in Dwight Howard's case, there is no Jimmy Graham. It's just Gronkowski, and it's also a much more important position than tight end. And you just saw with Tyson Chandler in the Olympics, like that Coach K basically decided, I'm going to just go with a gimmick. I'm going to go small ball over. There's no reason for me to really play this guy.
Quickly come to Tyson's defense on 2 different points. First of all, the international game is not his forte. I think he's much more suited for the NBA style professional game. And secondly, the foul call situation, the entire Olympics was a joke. So
but he is the one thing that he's always been overrated on as a defensive player has been the ability to just stop a low post guy 1-on-1. And Gasol was abusing him.
Well, he doesn't have that physical body for that. That's right.
No, what he's really good at is kind of anchoring the defense and coming over and helping when somebody's driving the basket.
Super duper help defender.
Yeah, he's fantastic at that. And that's why he seemed maybe a little more valuable at the Knicks than he was, because constantly the other guys are getting beat off the dribble and Tyson comes flying over and protects the rim and does Tyson things. But back to Dwight though.
Yeah.
Yeah, on paper it looks great, but when you're talking about the personalities, and I will fully admit that as a Celtics fan, I've talked myself into some of this, because on paper it's such a devastating team. But yeah, if this is going to self-combust, it's going to be because of the personalities, and we do have a precedent here, the 2004 Lakers, which was another team that looked unbeatable on paper, but the personalities never meshed. The door was open.
That was the end of a run. I love how you're grasping, and I appreciate it. I understand exactly what you're trying to do.
I'm grasping, but I'm coming up with stuff, too, as I'm grasping. I'm not just grasping, I'm actually, getting hold of stuff.
Okay.
But in 2004, if Karl Malone doesn't get hurt, they might win the title. I don't know. I still feel like the Pistons were so locked in that year, and the chemistry in the Lakers was so bad, and their bench was so bad that they probably lose, but you could make a case maybe they wouldn't have lost with Malone. But that whole year was weird. It
was weird.
They definitely had a bad vibe about that team, and it could have And here's the other thing with Howard. I haven't been able to talk to anybody who would bet their life on him coming back before January 1st.
That's the thing that's most interesting about all of this. How hurt was he? Has this surgery really corrected the issue? And how soon will he be back? That, to me, is the most compelling Dwight Howard story.
And what's the track record of guys who got cut, who had legitimate back surgery, who had a knife cut into their back and stuff happened? It's not 100% that people come back from this, or they might come back, in a slightly different form.
Do we have any recent examples of somebody that got this same surgery?
I don't know. I'd have to. I didn't realize we were going to be talking about this for so long. I'd love to research it. I remember,
I think, Dwight is a physical specimen. I mean, he's got kind of an unprecedented body.
Totally. But the larger point here is he might not be back till February.
Sure.
And they might be playing without him for half the season, and which FYI, I still think they'd be really good.
Me too.
Even without him, because they could just play Jamison at power forward. They could kind of go small ball Euro a little bit. They could Nash, spot Jamison in the corner. It'd be a lot of Nash and Gasol. I think Gasol is the number one guy in a fantasy league who's going to get taken 9 spots before he should, but probably that's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
But then Dwight comes back. Let's say he comes back February. They have 3 months to acclimate him into that offense, which should be fairly easy because of the style of his game.
Right.
But still, you're acclimating a totally new guy into your offense.
Yeah, all true. Have there been any stories about his progress, his rehab, that suggest he might be ready at the beginning of the season?
I haven't heard anybody who thinks he's going to be ready at the beginning of the season.
Okay.
And I think it's pretty clear now that the Lakers were waiting to make a move on that trade until they had better info on whether he was going to be healthy or not. That's my take, and that's what a couple people have told me who know this stuff. Like this trade that could have been made in June, it could have been made at the end of June, the beginning of July, and for whatever reason they waited and waited. So I think they were waiting to make sure that he was okay. I don't think they wanted to give away Bynum unless they were reasonably sure that Howard was going to be healthy, which I think is smart. You agree with that, right?
Of course, goes without saying.
Now, what do you think of Bynum to Philly? I was excited. I hit this like in my initial reaction. I think it was an important point that the match with him and the Philly market could be a little toxic, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. I think it's great for Philly, and I think he's going to get along fine with the Philly market. I mean, there's always that excitement. He's an East Coast guy. Yeah. So, I mean, he went to high school like 45 minutes from Philly, didn't he? Yeah,
it was. He likes that area, but I mean,
he understands it. I mean, it resonates with him. He won't be stunned.
He's also going to be the guy. Yeah. And none of us have any idea how frustrated he is to play with Kobe on a night-to-night basis, not just from getting enough shots, but his personality. Like, he might be liberated.
He might be liberated, precisely, and that liberation might be coincident with his own maturation process. He's another year younger. I mean, another year older, and he just had the very best sustained, excellent performance of his career.
Right, and was healthy.
So all those factors, maybe he's turned a corner.
The catch, though, is that a lot of the stuff that he got away with in L.A., especially some of the petty stuff and kind of the immature stuff, nobody really cared about here because it's not that kind of sports market, and Kobe dwarfs anything else that's going to happen with the Lakers anyway. I think if he pulls some of that stuff in Philly, it's not going to go over well. Just like it wouldn't go over well in Boston or Chicago or any cold weather city.
I think as a principle that's true, but the Sixers have been irrelevant in Philly for a long time. They still have a hard time. Chris Ryan can speak to this, but my impression is they didn't even sell out all those playoff games.
True.
The town is still coming around on basketball again.
And they haven't really had a full-fledged chess piece since Iverson was Iverson.
Right.
So we're talking like 05. 05 Iverson was the last really meaningful player they've had. I don't know if Bynum's meaningful or not. I think he's definitely a top 15, top 16 guy, second best center in the league. I don't know if he's a meaningful player.
Well, you have everybody excited.
Yeah.
There'll be busting seats.
And also, like, the guy's really good at scoring baskets.
Yes.
And it was, if the Laker fans that I knew were really frustrated that they just didn't go to him at the end of games.
Sure, right.
Because he scored all the time. He scored and the crunch time stats backed it up. I think it was like 70% in crunch time or something.
More times than not. This is one of the ways that you and I, when we're talking about playoff basketball, who can you give the ball to at the end of games, and something good is going to happen 51% of the time.
Right. He's one
of those guys.
Now, the catch should be, and this is another reason you have to like the trade for them. Like, if I'm playing them and it's a tie game in the last 4 minutes, I'm doubling him. I might even send a third guy flying at him just for the hell of it. Anybody else in the team can beat me. I'm not letting him beat me. That's good. You want a guy like that.
Yeah.
So that's a win. I thought it was a great trade for them. The only person I talked to who didn't like the trade for them was my dad.
Oh.
My dad said, we had this war with them, the Celtics, 7-game series with them.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, I thought the 3 players that killed us in that series were Iguodala, Elton Brand, and Lou Williams. And all of those guys are now gone.
That's true.
I didn't really back him on the Elton Brand one, but he was like, no, defensively he had a big impact. But he was like, those are the 3 guys I was afraid of, and all of them are gone. So now it's like they're basically rolling the dice with Bynum and Evan Turner, and who knows with Evan Turner.
Right.
I think they had to do it, though. And also, like, you look at the East Coast, like just game after game after game in that schedule, Bynum is going to have a mismatch.
Oh, undoubtedly. No, I'm looking at their roster right now. Evan Turner, Drew Holiday, Jason Richardson, Thaddeus Young, Nick Young, What a weird roster.
It's a bizarre roster.
It went from a weird roster to a less weird roster, but it's still weird.
And Kwame, Spencer Hawes is still on that team. They'll probably trade him.
Hurt, isn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Jason Richardson, I thought Jason Richardson was the sneaky part of that trade. I've already said this. I don't think he's remotely close to being done. I think they had a lockout, and it ended, and he showed up fat. He had a bad season. I'm not sold on him being done yet, and at the very least, he can hit threes. He's done it his whole career, and on that team, he's going to get to take some open ones.
I totally agree with that. We'll know at the very beginning of the season which Jason Richardson the Sixers are getting. Because
and also,
he could take games over.
Yeah, and also, if he's any kind of a competitor and has any juice in the tank left, the fact that he was just regarded as a throw-in, as somebody, well, you got to take this guy's contract if we're dealing Dwight. Like, he was rendered so meaningless. Like, how does that not affect you as a competitor? I feel the same way about Ray Felton, who I think in just about any other situation might have been done as a basketball player.
Yep.
But he took so much heat in Portland last year and took so much heat for being fat. And then he signs with the Knicks, and the Knicks fans are just furious that they let rid of Jeremy Lin. I think Felton's going to end up – it's going to work to their favor in a weird way. I think he's going to have a big year.
Oh, that's interesting.
How does he not show up in shape for this year? I mean, does he have any pride as a human being? He's got to show up in shape, right? He's probably working out right now.
Knicks from your mouth, the Knicks fans are saying to the great Lord's ears.
Did you see his quote?
Of him.
His quote was I think my favorite quote of 2012 by an athlete. He said he was mad about how people are talking about how fat he was, and he's like, I don't know the exact words, but he said, I've been in shape for 7 of the 8 years of my career.
Are you sure that wasn't Andre Bloch? Are you sure that was my man, Dre 7?
You got to love that. I've been in shape for 7 of the 8 years of my career.
He's going to be awesome. It's going to be great in New York.
What'd you think about Iguodala to Denver?
Awesome. I love that GM, that Denver GM. Is his last name Mystery? Or his first name?
Yeah, can he become our friend? I just want to befriend him.
I'm telling you, I love what he does. The only thing that as a Washington fan, I'm worried that it got over on my professional basketball team by taking McGee and sticking us with Nene. Now, I've loved everything I've seen from Nene, and I'm not at all sad about seeing McGee go, but this guy is a smart guy.
Nene at the Olympics was pretty funny. And as you said before, it's not a great format for centers unless you have a low post game like Gasol, but man, it was very easy to forget he was out there for long stretches of time. And it was so easy to forget that I actually looked up his contract to see how much you had left. It's not a cheap price.
No,
it's 4 years, 48.
I would have paid it December of 2011 if presented. If somebody said to you, "You can sign Nene right now. He's the best available free agent. Do you want him? Here's how much it'll cost." I would say 11 times out of 10, yes.
Well, it's
I haven't changed my mind on that.
Yeah, because if you did that contract right now in July, it's the equivalent of just signing him for 4 years, 48.
Right.
And you're going to do that every time.
Yes, I think so.
Because you can always trade it. As Denver, and that was why Denver gave him that contract, because they knew worst case scenario, he was an asset, and they could turn him into another asset, which they did. And this is also the logic which made the Knicks decision. No, Aflalo too, yeah, exactly. But also, flipping it the other way, it's what made the Knicks so stupid. And we don't need to reconvene the podcast to prove that the Knicks are stupid, but
right.
Lin was an asset. They didn't have to pay him the $15 million in year 3.
You know who else was
You
an
figure
asset?
It out later.
Landry Fields was an asset.
He technically, yeah. I mean, he's overpaid, but
he's 20, whatever. You can't. Those guys are not replaceable.
That was a terrible contract, though.
I understand. I got the poison pill nature of it, but if you're trying to build a team and you're the Knicks, where the money is irrelevant,
yep,
you got to keep your young guys.
That's a crucial point. You've already operated the last 12 years like money was irrelevant. So why are you drawing the line in the sand right now? And also, you can't. Like what they gave Kidd, Felton, Marcus Camby, and somebody else was more than Lynn's going to make in year 3. I just thought, clear, and from everyone I've talked to, it just seems like 100% this was a spite move by Dolan.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I thought it was at the time, and I haven't heard one thing from anybody who hasn't agreed. Like, this was a case of, who does this guy think he is? How dare he goes out and gets this offer? How dare he changes it? I'll show him.
Right.
Watch what happens to him now that he's not in New York. Total spite, and yet another reason why he's a terrible owner. But you have to match that contract. You just have to. You figure it out in December. Like, for instance, CP is a free agent next summer.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about Dwight and how Dwight's a free agent next summer, and who knows with Dwight. CP is the same boat, and I think it's more likely CP leaves the Clippers than Dwight leaves the Lakers. I don't think either of them will leave, but I think if I had to bet my life on one of those two guys leaving, I would bet on Chris.
Yeah.
And let's say you're the Knicks. You have Jeremy Lin, $5 million in year 2, and then $15 million in year 3, I guess is how it works. So you could put together some package with, like, I don't know, Lin and whatever else. Like, if Chris just says, I want to go to the Knicks, and you're the Clippers, and the best you can get is 2 years of Jeremy Lin and some draft picks or whatever, you're probably at least thinking about it if it was a good season.
Take it, I think. Look what Orlando got for Dwight.
So the Knicks basically have no chance to get Chris Paul now. I'm not saying they would have gotten him anyway, but they removed the chance.
There's too many crazy things out there that can happen between now and when Chris is eligible.
They don't have the pieces. Who are they going to trade for him?
They don't now have the pieces, but who knows? It's so early to tell.
They have 3 players. The Clippers aren't going to take Carmelo for Chris Paul.
I agree.
Now, when you watch Carmelo in the Olympics, did you feel better about that trade, or is it just an international basketball thing and we can't prorate anything from it?
I ascribe Carmelo's success to the fact that it's, he really does have a game that's very complementary in that international style of play. And if he and the Knicks could jointly transport that style of play and make it, the Knicks style of play, adopt that style, then I think they'd have something interesting. I'm skeptical as to whether or not Lin and Carmelo were ever going to work out.
I think Lin was skeptical. I think that's why he went and chased the Houston offer.
I don't disagree. I mean, that plus the extra $5 million. Those were the two things.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, it was the Knicks told him, go out and get the best offer you can get, and we'll match it. So he went out and got an offer, and the Knicks said, "Oh, we're going to match that." And the Rockets said, "Well, we haven't officially done the offer yet. What if we gave you more money?" Lynn's going to say, Nah, I'm good at $19 million. Nah, I don't want the 26.
We don't have to talk about it. It's crazy.
No, but I mean,
it doesn't make any sense. But the interesting thing, like, which Carmelo do the Knicks have now? What going forward are they going to get out of him? The guy who pounded the ball and took 22-footers?
Yeah. That's a coaching thing, though. That's at least a little bit on the coach.
Yeah.
And also, like, at least Carmelo's proven to me in 2008 and 2012 that he can play within the framework of a team as long as he respects the guys he's playing with.
Clearly.
And the one time we saw him respect the guys he was playing with in an NBA way was 2009, which was his best season, which was the closest he came to making the finals, which was a really good Nuggets team.
It was a really good Nuggets team.
And they had the Lakers 2-2 in that series, and then they sucked the last 2 games for whatever reason. But that team was pretty close. And when you look at who was on that team, it wasn't exactly an all-star team.
No.
They had Nene, they had Chauncey Billups, tail end of his prime, J.R. Smith.
They're pretty good.
They're good. I'm not saying I don't think it was much better or worse than the Sticks team he's on.
Yeah, that's true.
But he's also never really played with a good point guard other than Chauncey that one time. Unless you want to say Andre Miller, I don't know. But I don't think that's changing this year. I think it's going to work out for everybody. I like Lynn on the Rockets. It's not going to be bad. He's going to get to shoot. I think it's a good thing. I think
it's going to be fun.
I feel bad for the Knicks fans, though.
Yeah, I feel bad for the Knicks fans because, you know what, they were so close to having something that everybody could get behind and be psyched entering the season. And you had the potential for this legitimate, rivalry right out of the box with Brooklyn. Now, my impression is all the Knicks fans are bummed and, resentful of the way the off-season went, and that little bit of hope has been, that bubble's popped. And now, what Brooklyn is going to be the thing.
Yeah. Although, I think the thing that really hurt Lynn was how bad he was in that one Miami game right before the All-Star game. And I think Dolan might have been looking at this whole big picture and then said he kept coming back to that game mentally, saying, well, if I need to beat that Miami team, that guy, he looked terrible in that game.
It's such a small sample size.
I'm not defending it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out how you let that guy go for nothing. It's been a month. I still can't figure it out. So, everybody's sleeping on. I mean, do you feel like people feel like this Lakers team's going to make the finals?
Yes. That is what I think people think.
Because, man, that Oklahoma City team was really good last year and came very close to winning the championship.
They were really good and came really close.
I feel like this is the best thing that ever could have happened to them. Now, instead of taking the pressure of, it's 2000 here, now it's time for them to make that final leap, and it's going to be. Now it's like, get rid of these guys. Here come the Lakers. It's great for them.
Yeah, it does. It does remove some of the pressure, for them. Although I think that pressure idea is a little overblown. I'm not so sure that it matters for them. They're so young. They just want to get out and run. They got that horse mentality. Let us just get out and run.
Yeah, and plus, I wrote this already, but the Perkins transaction all of a sudden looks better than it did a year ago because of Dwight. That was the one guy he could always play well against.
Yeah.
He just for whatever reason loved playing against Dwight, and now he gets to. Yeah, he's kind of, and it turns out he was hurt last year, although it seems like he's hurt every year. But, so it really seems like the Final Four is, I mean, who cracks Lakers, Oklahoma City, Celtics, Heat?
Ooh.
Who cracks that foursome?
I'm going to say San Antonio, just out of respect.
Just out of respect and principle? Fair enough.
Yeah. That's the best I can do. In the East, I can't come up with anybody.
Yeah, because, although, man, I don't know what to make of ACL injuries anymore. The fact that Adrian Peterson might play in Week 1, does that mean does that mean Rose can be 100% by end of March?
I don't know. Basketball.
It's a 2-year injury. We've always been taught it was a 2-year injury.
It's not just taught. Our eyes have told us. We've seen it.
But how is Adrian Peterson playing again?
I don't know. I don't understand one bit of it. You need to get a doctor on to explain what the hell's going on with that.
There's got to be. They must have new machines or something that makes these guys heal faster. Something's
was it a whole
going
tear?
on.
Maybe it wasn't a full tear.
No, he did his ACL and his MCL.
I know. That's what I thought too. But
I will say that the way Rose plays, worst possible guy for this injury to happen to.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, but
right.
He just put such a torque on his lower body with those moves. He's just violent. The way he drives to the basket is violent.
Here's the thing. I haven't seen any reports. I haven't checked his passport. I hope he's in Germany. I hope he's making trips to Germany.
It's possible. But you go to Germany when you're trying to regenerate like blood flow or whatever. Like he just needed a new
got to be
ligament.
helpful to a knee tear, right?
You and I need to go to Germany.
Yeah, I want to go to Germany. My lower back needs it.
I'm tired of stinking in basketball. I need one more run.
You're out of your mind. There are no more runs.
I'll take anything they want to give me. Just give me like 5 more fun weeks on a basketball court. Tell me what to take. Human growth hormone? Sure. How do I get it? Where is it?
Oh, you can get it. Just call Big Papi.
Oh, come on, House. It was totally uncalled for. Good segue, though, because I wanted to ask you about the Strasburg thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which is both a really annoying sports story that people have spent way too much time talking about it.
That's
but
right.
At the same time, a totally fascinating sports story because there's almost no precedent into it. Like, why wouldn't they have, if this was the plan all along, why wouldn't they have staggered this so that he pitched from June through October?
The stories that I have read suggest that the protocol he's operating under is, supposed to be the very best, protocol possible, and B, it emphasizes the routine of, starting in March, or end of February with spring training, and running all the way up until he hits this a limit, and we've seen innings ceilings identified. Mike Rizzo, the GM of the Nats, keeps insisting that there isn't a number, that it's going to be kind of an eye test for him, but we have an idea of it. It seems like the key to the entire strategy is some kind of a routine. Now, there was a story, Dan Steinberg of the Washington Post has been all over this. And he's
your hero.
He is.
If Dan Steinberg wasn't in your life, it would be like, 5% worse?
Yeah, I mean, at least, right. As far as the Washington sports scene goes, he is my authorita. But apparently the Nats have a 50-page PowerPoint document that sort of details the entirety of this program, this protocol. And it has to be in there that it's very important for him to pitch on a very kind of regimented schedule, because everybody can come up with dozens and dozens of scenarios that would enable him to pitch into October and still stay under the innings threshold. It's not that hard for a creative person to get there, but it seems like the team is emphasizing, and this has to be the game plan, the routine and sticking to the consistency of it. In favor of trying to engineer something to make them available.
All right, really dumb question. So I assume when he gets shut down, that means he's done. But then how long does a pitcher get shut down? Like, he couldn't come back in October and as part of his quote unquote throwing sessions in the off season, just randomly have a throwing session that would be, say, the 7th inning of a World Series game.
It seems unlikely. I think that's outside the boundaries of the
That
protocol.
wasn't on the 50-page PowerPoint document?
I don't think it was in there.
But that's a tough one.
It's fascinating. The thing that I wonder, and it's slightly perverse to observe this, what would have happened if he tore his hamstring in May, or didn't tear it, but hurt it enough that he couldn't pitch for 6 weeks? Would we have bought 6 weeks at the end of the season? Would that have been another, 40 innings or so?
Well, I think if he had to do it all over again, that's probably what he would have done, right? Pretended he tore his hamstring. No, my hamstring hurt.
It seems like he's taking a lot of guidance from Boris, and Boris is, really playing as much of a leadership role on this as Mike Rizzo. I'm sure Boris would have talked him out of it.
Well, here's what they need to start thinking about, because it really doesn't sound like he's going to be in the playoffs. How do you use Strasburg for the playoffs? I would say maybe you make him the first base coach, because first base coach doesn't do anything.
They have to have him in the clubhouse at all the games. He has to have some kind of role. You don't like him? You don't like my idea of him being the first base coach? He might have to wave his arm. That might be outside the protocol.
He can wave his left arm.
Go on to second. Oh,
they just tell him wave the left arm.
Maybe that's not in the protocol either. I don't know. I haven't seen the PowerPoint. Anyway.
Maybe they could have him announce. I don't know. I just feel like he needs to remain involved.
I'm disappointed, obviously, but, I get the merits of the argument.
Well, how much of an impact does it have? I obviously don't follow the National League.
It's impossible to say how much of an impact it's going to have. I mean, he's a guy that
who's starting Game 3 of the NLDS for you?
He would start Game 1 of the NLCS for us.
Well, but I mean, he pushes everyone back. So who starts Game 3?
Oh, it would be it's Strasburg, Gonzalez, and Zimmerman. Those are the top 3. So It would be Zimmerman, Jordan Zimmerman.
But Strasburg he's not in the playoffs, so Zimmerman now is your Game 2 starter. So who's your Game 3 starter?
So that's what you're asking me. It's either Edwin Jackson or Ross Detweiler. Detweiler's the lefty and
Edwin Jackson!
Edwin Jackson, by the way.
I've always enjoyed Edwin Jackson's work. I think he steps up.
He's had an excellent season for the Nats.
I like Edwin Jackson.
His ERA is great. His strikeout total is good. He's had a very good season.
I think he'll be fine.
I mean, right. It'll be impossible to not, wonder what could have been. Because one thing about Strasburg, the thing that I haven't seen mentioned very much, that I personally will miss, he is a big game performer. I mean, the guy loves the pressure moments. You know it from the very first game he pitched in the big leagues when he came out and threw 14 strikeouts.
So you think bigger stage really would have been something for him?
I agree. I definitely think that. That's exactly what I think.
All of this is distracting from the real story with the 2012 Nats, which is Mike Trout just putting a clown suit on Bryce Harper. Remember, it was almost like Jordan Drexler in '92. A lot of parallels.
I think it's very unfair to compare the two. Bryce Harper's 19 years old, for Christ's sake.
I know.
I mean,
remember
when A-Rod was 19. That's
true.
The comparison.
But remember, for about 4 weeks, it was fun to put them in the same sentence, and then Mike Trout was like, "No, actually, I'm just going to be the best young player of all time. I'm going to go in that direction instead. Thanks, though, Bryce Harper. Thanks for the 4 weeks in the same sentence. I'm going to be the next Mickey Mantle. Thanks."
Bryce Harper could still be the next Mickey Mantle. We're years away from knowing.
It's possible.
Anyway,
the Mike Trout thing is really incredible.
It's stunning.
Jonah and I were talking about it 2.5 weeks ago. It was almost for some reason it hadn't become like a gigantic story yet, and I haven't been watching them that much, but it reminded me of the good in 1985 season, which I did see a lot of because I was going to school in Connecticut that year, and didn't have a ton of channels. I ended up watching a lot of Doc Gooden. And that was the year he was being compared to Mozart and that whole thing.
Right. An incandescent season.
So Jonah and I were exchanging emails and just how good is this rookie season? Jonah's like, I don't know. So he goes into total stat nerd mode. He just disappears in his bunker.
Yes.
Comes out with this 3,000-word opus. And basically, this is the greatest season by a young hitter ever. And this was 3 weeks ago, and his numbers haven't gone down. Now Sports Illustrated had a big piece about it this week, but it does feel weird. This is a historic, not even once in a decade. This could be a once in a lifetime season he's having. We might never see this again, and I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about it, or maybe they are. And I'm just not hearing.
See Anaheim. That's the thing with baseball. Unless you're a diehard. I've maybe seen him in 3 games.
Well, they were playing the Red Sox this week, which, to torture myself, still watching the Red Sox a little bit. He hit this grounder to third base yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was the guy had to go to his right and then, pivot and throw, but he had a good throw. Trout they cut to, when you watch baseball and you kind of have in your head what you're going to see.
Yes.
So they cut to the first base bag, and you expect. I actually thought Trout was going to beat it out, but you expect him to be at a certain point of his journey.
Yes.
And they cut to the first base bag, and he's already running by the bag. I was like, what happened? What just happened?
Well, and again, not to compare the two, but that's the same kind of thing that happens with Harper.
Yeah.
You can't believe he looks like he's playing at a little bit of a different speed.
Yeah. Well, it's like that. I was writing about seeing Usain Bolt in person that, shrink the field. Now I want to go see Trout. I'd love to see him run out a triple. I want to see what that's in person. I'm going to go see him this month.
There's not much getting in the way of you going and seeing him.
No, what's getting in the way is the I-5, which is just a beast.
Yeah.
The traffic issues with the two, it sounds awesome on paper to have 2 baseball teams that you can go to in the same city. The Dodgers traffic thing, you can't even believe the traffic. Like, LA Times had a big story about it yesterday. The traffic is so much worse than you could ever possibly imagine traffic would be. Like, it's almost like, imagine like when at a football game, at whatever your football stadium's called now, if it all got let out at the same time, but it was a 2-lane road.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
That's what they do. They make you sit in the parking lot at, I think it's called FedEx Field. It's called, Dan Snyder Cash Cow is what it's called.
Yeah.
Cash Cow Emporium. But it takes hours to get out of there.
It takes.
What's the explanation? I mean, baseball you're supposed to be able to get to. Is that? I mean, this isn't a new phenomenon. Both the Dodgers and Anaheim have been where they've been for a while now.
Well, the Dodgers, I don't know why it's worse than it was, but apparently it's worse. And people don't get there till the 4th inning. And they just sit in traffic for 3 hours trying to get to the game. Then Anaheim, just the I-5's a mess. And you can get there from Orange County, but if you're coming from L.A., that's why most people from L.A. don't ever go to
So you need to make
games.
A day of it. You need to, go over to Orange County. You have some reason to go kill time.
Yeah, you need to go. The right way to do it would be to leave at 2:30, get there at 4, and go to a movie.
Yeah.
And then driving home's not as bad, but anyway, I mean, and they might not make the playoffs, which is the crazy thing. I don't think they're going to.
The other observation I was going to make: if they don't make the playoffs, I'm not going to see them. I'm just going to have to read these stories about what a great season he had.
Yeah, or you could go. Well, you could watch a game.
I mean, right, but they're not. The national broadcast games aren't. They're not prominent in them.
Sure.
The Angels, and I'm not. I can't tell you when I'm going to go online and watch an Angels game.
But you should do is go on YouTube and watch all the awesome Mike Trout highlights.
Exactly.
Oh no, there aren't any Mike Trout highlights at all.
That's right.
Thank you, MLB Advanced Media.
That's right. They don't permit that.
So, what do people in Washington care more about, the Redskins or the Nationals right now?
The Redskins. It's always the Redskins. There's never any possibility it's anything other than the Redskins. But this series with the Braves, the Nats won 2 out of 3. Every one of those games had around 35,000 fans, which is great. And the broadcasts were live; it was electric. The game that Strasburg pitched 2 nights ago, Tuesday night, they had a rain delay. He came out and threw 10 strikeouts in 6 innings. There were legitimately 5 goosebump moments, and it's been the first time in so long that baseball mattered to my life again. I forgot what that felt like. It's awesome. Baseball, competitive baseball at the end of the year, with October coming into view, it is so good.
Yeah.
Remember what that felt like?
I do. I remember what that felt like. And you have likable guys in your team.
Yeah. It's a good story. Everybody behind just about everybody. Yeah. Davey Johnson's managing. I mean, it feels right. The crazy thing for me personally is that Davey Johnson managed the last team that I cared about, which was the 97 Orioles.
Right now I feel like Robert Pattinson listening to somebody talk about how great their relationship is.
That girl didn't do anything wrong, by the way. That girl, all she did, it reminds me of the old Chris Rock line. That's just a tiger being a tiger. Tiger wasn't crazy. That's just a young girl being a young girl.
I also find it hard to believe he wasn't doing anything.
I agree. Well, I don't know. It's 50-50. Well, I can't say what I really want to say.
No, because after being in England for a month, and I not only did I write about this, but then people in London who read the column were congratulating me on it about how perverted they are. They were like, I read what you wrote about. I read what you wrote about London. You're right, we are perverts. But it was. I think, assuming he's not gay, which I don't think he is, that means that
was the point I was thinking about covering.
That means Plan B would be he's a pervert, which means they probably had an open relationship. I think he was probably just humiliated that it ended up on Us Weekly with pictures of her getting those pictures were bizarre. It was bizarre. What was going on there?
They weren't having sex. Both of them claim it.
But he's mounting her from behind in public.
Right. It was an over the clothes physical relationship.
See, reason number 10,942 Why I will not let my daughter become a child actress. She was a child actress.
Oh,
Kristen
wow.
Stewart.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, she was in Panic Room.
She was
like
in
11.
stuff as a young girl. That's right.
Just don't think there's any. What's the upside?
I don't know.
What's the upside of letting your daughter, of throwing your daughter into the whole pop culture, Google, message board, all that? Like, what's the upside? Us
It
Weekly.
seems like there's a lot more instances and cases you could point to where things didn't go great than situations that went well. Maybe the Olsons. Is that what you hope for? Like you're done by a certain age, and then
the Olsons haven't eaten. The Olsons haven't eaten since like 1994. They eat cigarette smoke and coffee. They eat cigarette smoke and coffee.
But they're rich. So
they are rich. They can't even smile for they don't even smile for photos.
They traded food for money.
Apparently.
I wouldn't do that.
Do you this Jennifer Aniston engagement, is this on your radar at all? Or
no, I'm over that whole story. That story I got over that story 5 years ago.
I'm excited that I don't have to read about her love life anymore when I read through my wife's Us Weekly and pretend I don't look forward to it every week.
Who says you're not going to keep reading about it?
Well, now that she's married, it's boring.
That's it?
It's boring now, unless they maybe the guy will cheat on her. Well, I guess I could still hold out a hope to that. I like when she's like America's, the one that is like in peril, basically. She's a celebrity peril. Can't find the right guy. Guys are mean to her. It's like she's become like something of a heroine.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna admit, who's gonna fill her shoes?
Oh. Wow.
Oh, women are 100% in on Jennifer Aniston.
Well, why isn't Katie Holmes going to fill her shoes?
That's pretty interesting. I like the way you're thinking, House.
Yeah, that's my bid.
If I was like it seems like these actresses, like, first of all, if we knew then what we know now, like when you were going to law school and I thought it'd be fun to become a writer.
Yeah.
Just talking about if you said to yourself in college, I'm going to be successful, but more importantly, I want to marry a hot celebrity. It seems like the two things you'd want to do are either become a producer or become an agent.
Yeah, agents. I mean,
it's like agents can bag celebrities.
We have seen some very average dudes end up with some spectacular ladies.
Spectacular!
I mean, yeah, otherworldly.
And it's also like, I don't think these celebrities, I think they have trouble meeting guys and
I think that's the
trusting
whole
who
deal.
they're
It's
meeting.
like who's in their life all the time.
So they gravitate toward people in the industry. So like Julia Roberts, like she married a cameraman.
Plus the trust thing, right? I mean, how do you overcome that?
You're going to gravitate toward people in the industry that are kind of vetted.
Yes.
So I'm sure there's some 20-year-olds listening to this right now. If you're sitting there saying, how can I construct my life so that A, I'm going to have money, and B, I could potentially have sex with and maybe even marry a smoking hot actress? Become an agent or a producer. There's your answer.
Get to New York or L.A. Stat. You've
22-tupled your chances of potentially having sex with the next generation's Reese Witherspoon.
22-tupled.
You've 22-tupled it.
It's a fact.
Here's how it goes. You're at a party. You're at like, I don't know, the GQ Man of the Year party. So whatever. You're at the Chateau Marmont. There's some actress who's like 25 who just broke up with her celebrity boyfriend. She's getting a drink. You go up to her and you start talking, and she says, "What do you do?" And you say, "I'm with William Morris Endeavor." That's it. You're in.
At least
she'll listen to you for the next hour. Yeah, you now have an hour to prove yourself.
Yes, that's right.
Whereas if you said to her, I'm in law school. Oh, I handle mortgages. She's out. She's getting her drink and she's moving on.
Yeah, good luck.
You throw that William Morris Endeavor, I'm an agent, that's it. She's in. She wants to listen to you and talk about business. There. Yeah. So that's my advice to the 20-year-olds out there. Anything else we got to cover, House?
I don't think so. I mean, it's too early to tell about RG3.
Yes.
Although ESPN, the magazine, according to the AccuScore thing, they published us have the Redskins at 2-14. I'll take the over on that.
The fun thing, though, when you have a bad football team, if you have a good quarterback, is that it doesn't matter if the football team's bad.
That's true.
I'm sure any Carolina Panther fan would run back that 2011 crappy Panther season they had, right? It was a fun season.
All eyes on Cam Newton all the time.
I would rather have a really entertaining but ultimately forgettable football team than one of those like that Chiefs team 2 years ago that made the playoffs, but you knew they were going to lose in round one.
I'm not sure about that. Making the playoffs in the NFL is something. Going to a playoff game is good time.
You have 50% chance. What are you talking about? Oh, no, I guess it's less than that. What is it, 40?
For who?
40% chance.
Of what?
To make the playoffs.
Who does?
There's 12 teams can make the playoffs. There's 32 teams overall.
I
guess like a 38% chance. You might be right.
It feels like 2% here in Washington. It's felt that way for a while.
Well, and as you know firsthand, it's really tough to overcome a bad owner. The Knicks fans have found that out. Clipper fans have found that out. Unfortunately, it seems like the Red Sox fans are starting. I don't know what happened to our owners, but the fish rots from the top.
For sure.
Joe House, a pleasure. Good luck with Strasburg. Good luck with RG3.
Welcome back to America. Good luck with your kids and their accents.
I appreciate that. Hopefully, hopefully my head will be working right in about 5 days.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Try to get the sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at PodCenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.
All right, fans, by now you should know that millions of fans use StubHub and the StubHub app to find the seats they want to games, concerts, and more. But one thing you may not know is that you can also go on StubHub to set a price alert. That means you choose where you want to sit and the price you want to pay. Then if another fan lists tickets for sale within your price range, StubHub will email to let you know. Pretty great, huh? So head to StubHub today to get your tickets or the app to set a price alert. You can't go wrong. StubHub!